Well, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all okay. I'm not again. I've got 2 weeks until I go camping on the bike, on the Interceptor, and currently it looks like this. It's in bits. Because I think my regulator rectifier has finally died. So I'm going to change it and relocate it. So this could be fun. So what I've got here is a kit that comes from James Slick on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel and he sells these relocation kits, which is some cables that allow you to reroute the cables from the regulator rectifier from underneath the bike up to the front of the bike so it stays cooler. I've got a new regulator rectifier. I've already taken the old one off. So, but if I explain the symptoms I was having. So a couple of days ago I was riding home from work and the engine started idling at about 2000 revs, and I thought, well, that's a bit weird. And then I noticed that the engine light had come on, the ABS light had come on, and the little USB charger that I've now got on the bike shows a voltage on it, and that was showing 18 volts. Well, that's not right, is it? So I had less than a mile to go when I noticed that, so I rode it home slowly, as gently as I could, and I obviously haven't started it again since. So I thought now's the time. I'd already had the kit anyway because I bought it with the intention of relocating the regulator rectifier at some point, so I didn't have to wait for the kit to arrive. So I started last night taking it apart, and that was a nightmare. Had an absolute nightmare. So I'm quite glad I wasn't filming that, because that would have been a bit difficult to try and show you with all the swear words and everything else. But if I show you what I've done so far, and then we can sort of take it from there of how I'm going to replace and relocate this regulator rectifier. So it's quite difficult trying to hold this here, but you see there's two bolt holes there. That was where the regulator rectifier sits normally, right behind the engine, and in front of the engine, sat sort of here, is usually this Evap cartridge, here, and that usually sits in front. So you can see that the regulator rectifier sat in there behind the Evap cartridge. Doesn't really get a lot of airflow to it, and I think that's what's happening, and it's causing a few of them to break down. And obviously I think that's probably what's happened to mine. But what this kit does is it allows you to reroute the cables, and I'm going to reroute the cables through here all the way up underneath the fuel tank and out the front, and it's going to sit at the front here underneath the oil cooler, which is exactly how Royal Enfield have got it on their Interceptor Bear 650. If you look at one of those, the oil cooler, the Reg Rec is underneath the oil cooler. So this is what I'm going to attempt to do now. So it was actually quite fiddly getting this bracket out. I mean, the regulator rectifier usually would sit on there like that, up this way actually, and these cables were clipped onto here and clipped onto these bits here like that. So that would be how it would sit underneath the bike. So you had to get under there and try and undo these cables, which is fun in itself with this This, you've got to be very careful with this or you'll break it. But I managed to get them undone and that was fine. So I managed to get the cables off, but I couldn't get these bits off of these bits here. And I had to bend them round and get a screwdriver underneath, because I don't know if you can see. Let's see if I can bring it closer to the camera. Under here you can see this little sort of lump there. That catches inside this hole here. And obviously no matter how hard you push to try and push it off without getting a screwdriver underneath that to open that up, as soon as I did that, it slid off quite easily, but I was faffing around for ages trying to do that. So if you do have an Interceptor and you want to change the regulator rectifier, this is something to look out for, is these little bits here. If you know that you've got to get a screwdriver on them to push them in. See, I'm not doing this in the order that I probably should be explaining it. This is why I'm never going to be any good at how-to videos, I think. I'm always going to be a how Steve did it video. But the first thing you need to move before you even get to the regulator rectifier is this Evap cartridge. And like I said, that sits in the front. It sits in front of the, if the engine is here, regulator rectifier is here, then this sits on a shelf in front of it, and it's got 3 pipes to it. You just pull those pipes off and throw this away. Unless you live in California or somewhere else, you don't really need one of these, and it gets contaminated with fuel anyway. So I'm not going to be putting this back on the bike. I'm just going to be leaving the cables, and I'll show you what I'm doing, the pipes, and I'll show you what I'm doing about that later on once I get further down the line. So that was that out. That came out relatively easy. There's a little bracket. There's this little bracket here that sits on the shelf underneath, and it sort of locates like that. So you undo that, and then you can shift this about and pull this out. Once you've got that out, you can get to the regulator rectifier, unscrew the 2 bolts that I showed you the holes, and do that bit with the connectors, and then the regulator rectifier should just slide down onto the floor. Then you can take the old regulator rectifier off of the bracket, and you're where I am now. Now the other thing I did was remove the fuel tank. You don't necessarily have to remove the fuel tank to do this, but I just thought, I think it's going to be easier to route the cables without the fuel tank in the way. So that's why I took the fuel tank off. Now the fuel tank comes off quite easily. There's 2 bolts here, and then you lift the fuel tank up. What I did was I had this block of wood here. I should have taken a picture of it while it was like it, but I didn't. So I had that bit of wood there like that, so that I could lift the tank up and balance it on this bit of wood. And then once you've got that, you can get underneath the tank, and there's these 2 pipes here that you just pull off the petrol tank. There's this connection to the fuel pump that just unclips like a standard electrical connection. There's this connection for the fuel sender for your gauge, and there's a connection here. There's the fuel line that goes down to the injectors. So those are there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bits you have to disconnect, and then you can lift the tank away. So here's the underside of the tank, and I can show you where those pipes go. The pipes go into here. There, look, see there? One pipe pulls off of there, another pipe pulls off of there. That's your connector for your fuel pump. There's the connector for the green connector for the sender unit, and this is the connector that connects onto that black bit of plastic. And there's these 2 little buttons on the side of this that you have to squeeze both of them at the same time for this to prise off. I don't know if you can see those squares on that button there. Look. Those need to be squeezed, one on each side, and then you should be able to just pull the tank off. So that's all the connections on the fuel tank. So it is relatively easy to take the fuel tank off the bike. So before I go any further, I'm going to put this bracket back on underneath the bike, because then this can be used to cable tie some of the cables to it to keep it out of the way of the chain. So I'll do that now, and then I'll show you it once it's on. I mean, it's going to be hard trying to film it while I'm doing it, so I'll put this on and then I'll just show you a picture of it with it on. Okay, so now you can see that bracket is now in place again. So now we've got to connect the cables up, I guess. So with the kit that James provides you, you get two cables. One is a 4-pin connector, one is a 3-pin connector, and these connect into the existing connections on the loom that are underneath that you took off of the regulator rectifier. So it's easy to know which one's which because they're completely different. You already know how they come apart because you've already taken this one apart. So they should be straightforward. So you plug these in, and then this is what you're going to thread up to the front of the bike. So I'm going to get these plugged in, and then I'll show you a quick picture or a quick shot of them connected in to the loom on the bike. Right, so under here you can see one connector there, that, and the other connector is here. This one here, look. So they're connected, and the next thing we got to do is thread these cables or these wires under the swinging arm and up here, then up along the frame. So that's the next bit. Okay, so you can see these are the cables where I've threaded them up through, and this is they're here, look. So at the moment I've threaded them up through here along following the swinging arm, and I've zip tied, just put one zip tie down here at the moment. I'll probably put another one there, I'm guessing, one probably here, if you can see that, and then these have got to go behind the horn. So it's suggested to take the horn off so then you can thread the cables through. But what I might actually do before I do that is I might actually put the regulator rectifier on there so I can see how much cable, because it's getting hot in here. Why did it have to happen on the hottest week of the year, isn't it? It's typical. So you've got a bit of cable here on the regulator rectifier. So I know how much cable I need to pull through, or how much I need. I think I need to have this in place so that I know how much I need to connect it. So I think that's the next thing, is to put this in place on the bike. Although actually I think I'm going to take the horn off. No, I'll do this first. So that's the bracket on the regulator rectifier. Just going to put it on the bike now. So you can see I've taken the two nuts out here, one there, one over here, 2 bolts. Sorry, they look like this. So I assume, nearly dropped the regulator rectifier then, that wouldn't have been good, would it? Okay, so I need to use one of these new bolts that James provided. Right, and that is where it's going to hang. I assume that's what it's supposed to look like. Oops. Oh, bollocks. Right. I think it might be easier to try and unplug these. Found the spring washer and the nut, which is always handy. Right, so with that out of the way, I kind of know what I'm playing with now. I wonder if it can go down through here, behind the throttle cables. Do you think? Like that. So, right, so I've routed it round the horn bracket here. I think is probably the best way for it. And this will just, it only plugs in one way. And then you just push it in. And this should pull the other cable in. There you go. So that's pulled in firmly there. So the other one is here from the regulator rectifier. And where's my 4-pin? Here's the 4-pin. Route that round behind as well. And that goes into here this way round. So that connects onto here and should then click into place, and you should be able to push that in there, and that won't come out now unless you pull that. So they're in place. They're in place behind there. I'll work out what I'm going to do with them, and then I've just got to cable tie these bits into place here and here, I think, and put the horn back on. Whew, it's bloody hot in here. Right, we're getting somewhere, I think. I think we're getting somewhere. So we have, let's put the light on it and you can see it. So there is one zip tie here, cables going up through here, another zip tie there. Obviously I need to cut these bits off. Another zip tie there holding it in place. Then the two cables go round behind the horn here, the horn mount, and they're just sat there, and I think they'll be all right there. I don't think they're going to go, they're not going to go anywhere, they're not going to shake loose because they're locked in place. So I think that should be all right. I don't think I need to zip tie them here. If I zip tie them too much, I'm going to struggle to get the horn on, I think. So I'm going to leave them there, and we'll see how it is for a while, and take it from there. Underneath the bike, what I've done, I'll show you what I've done. I don't know if you can see that, but I've used the original cable clip to the left here. Yeah, you can see the round cable clip that clips onto the back of the mounting plate. That's holding the cables away from the chain nut. So that should be okay. I've then mounted that big 3-pin socket, you know, plug connector, back onto the back plate for the regulator rectifier. So that's going to stay in place there, and the 4-pin one I've mounted onto the side of the one where it came off when I disconnected it and took the original regulator rectifier off. So actually having that backing plate there was quite handy for that. And because I've done that, I don't think I really need to zip tie any of that. Obviously these pipes here are just sort of hanging here because, and there's another one there, because I've taken the Evap canister away, but I'm not putting that back, so they're just going to hang there. They'll be fine just hanging there. That won't be a problem. James actually said that this would take about an hour. It's taken me about 4. But anyway, We're getting there. So here you can see the regulator rectifier sat underneath the oil cooler, exactly where it is on the bear. So I'm hoping that that will solve the problem. So yeah, so now we've got to get the petrol tank back on, I guess. Connect it all up. I need to put the horn back on. Horn's in. So the horn is in place and you can't really see those cables there. So I think they'll be all right there. I'll just keep an eye on them for a couple of rides and just make sure they don't move about too much. I mean, if they do, I'll just have to work out maybe zip tie them to this or tie them to something, but at the moment I think it looks all right. That was just in there anyway, wasn't it? I'm sure it was like that. Yeah, because it was zip tied there, so I was just worried about where's that come from, but I forget the tank's here, isn't it, usually? Right, get the fuel tank on then, I guess. Right, I don't want to drop this, do I? If I can help it. That wouldn't be good after all this effort. So I think that's kind of where it needs to be. So you've got to connect that thing with the two bits that you push in down onto the injectors. You can lift this up obviously to connect everything up. So the first thing is this pipe here with the two bits that you push, and this pushes and it should click into place. You should hear it click. I think it just did click. I better just check that because I don't want that falling off. Do we? That wouldn't be good. Yeah, see. There you go. You heard that click? So that's that bit in place. This should just click into place for the fuel sender. Yep, that's in. The breather pipes. Put the two breather pipes on. Connect up the fuel pump. That's clicked in. And the final breather pipe. There we go. So as far as I'm aware, I'll just double check. That's everything connected up. Fuel pump, yep. Breather, yep. Breather, yep. We heard that fuel pipe click into place. And the fuel sender is in. So that should be everything done. Should just be able to pull this out now so I don't go, and I managed to do that without damaging the tank. That's not going anywhere. Right, shall we give it a try then, shall we? Fuel pump priming. see that it's showing 14.5. That was what was showing 18 before. So I'm hoping that that's it fixed, because I'm a sweaty mess. And there you go, that's changing the regulator rectifier. I've got to tidy everything up now. So another thing I've done is I've bought a OBD scanner, and I bought it off of eBay because obviously there's an engine code and I wanted to read what it was and whether it goes away after now I've changed the regulator rectifier. So I'll show you that. So it's basically one of those cheap basic engine scanners that you plug into your car, and it comes with this cable. If I'd known that it would just come with that cable, I could have probably used my Carista Bluetooth dongle and just bought one of these cables, but never mind, I've got one of these now anyway. So this basically is now saying to, I don't know if you can read that, so enter scan. So we want to scan. And it's saying codes found. Okay. Read codes, stored codes, vehicle speed sensor A, and fuel pump control circuit open. Well, that could have been where I turned the ignition on when the tank was off. I didn't try and start the engine or anything, but I did turn the ignition on. So that could be that, but anyway. So if we come back, is there any pending codes? No codes stored in the mobile. Permanent codes, no permanent codes stored in the module. So erase codes, yes. Erase done. Press any key to continue. Yes, exit. Okay. So in theory, if I start the bike up now, I'm hoping that the engine light will stay off. There we go. Engine lights off. Lovely jubbly. Now there's one more thing that I need to do, and that's where I've disconnected the Evap cartridge. I have to there's two pipes that go onto the throttle bodies here, or onto the into the injector bit. I'm not sure what that bit's called, but let me see if I can show you them. So there's a pipe here, this pipe here. You can see it the other side better actually. If you can see this pipe here, there's one here and there's one the other side, and that goes down to the Evap, to the purge valve, and that's where the purge valve pushes the vapor back up into here to get burnt again. So I need to disconnect these. I can leave them hanging there where they are, but I've got two silicon end caps on order that should be here tomorrow. So when they're here, I'll put them on, and then that should be the job done. So I've been sat patiently waiting all day. It's now 6:10. They finally arrived. I've put the first one on, but this is the second. That silicon end cap I was telling you about that needs to go over that little stub where I remove the pipe. So I'm going to do the last one now. Not sure how well you can see that there, but anyway, this is the pipe that needs to come off. So you just pull that off. That should just pull off like that. Look. And the end cap just pops on there. And that is the job done. So yeah, that's it, done. Everything's done now. Just got to put the seat back on, and hopefully it'll be all right on a ride. So we're a couple of weeks on now from when I first started the process of changing the regulator rectifier, and I've ridden the bike a few times in hot weather as well, and I haven't had any problems. So I think that was my issue, was the regulator rectifier was starting to break down. It's not a uncommon problem, I think is probably the best way to say it, on an Interceptor. There's quite a lot of people that are reporting this as an issue now. I mean, if you speak to a dealer, they'll say that they've replaced a few, and you know, compared to the thousands and thousands of Interceptors that have been sold, then yeah, maybe it's not every single one that has the problem, but mine clearly did, because it was overcharging by far too much, and some undercharge and don't charge the battery at all. That's the more common issue. But anyway, I'm glad I did it. At the point of filming this, we're due to go to Wales this weekend, so I'm quietly confident that I shouldn't have any regulator rectifier issues anyway. As you can see, it's still on there, it hasn't fallen off, so I'm hoping that everything is now sorted. And I hope this video has been of some use to some of you. If you've come across this video as a search from looking on YouTube for regulator rectifier solutions, then hopefully this may have helped. And if not, hope you've enjoyed watching me make a mess of things and get in a complete muddle at points. But I think using James's kit was a big help, and using James's YouTube channel as well for some instructions and stuff is always useful. And the last thing I want to say is, if somebody as mechanically inept as me can do this, anyone can. Just if you're an Interceptor owner or a Continental GT owner with a regulator rectifier issue, take your time, watch some videos, don't stress, and it's an easy enough job. Anyway, till next time, take care, ride safe. I'll see you all again soon.